All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD 1000 Web Development Technologies course, I've been creating a series of video presentations based on the Mozilla Developer Network's Learn Web Developer series. So far in here, I've gone through the Getting Started with the Web and the HTML Structuring the Web, and I'm down at the bottom now of the next section, which is CSS Styling the Web. In here, I've gone through all of these up until I'm right here, so I've got 4 more to go, and I'm on Beginner's Guide to Media Queries. We've talked a little bit in the past about what a media query is, but for lack of better words, it's a CSS style rule that you can apply to a web page so that it, for lack of better words, will show nice on any kind of device. All right. As it says that here, media queries are a key part of responsive web design because they allow you to create different layouts depending on the size of the viewport. All right. In this lesson, you will first learn about the syntax used in media queries, then move on to a working example. Now, before we even go through this, I'm going to give you an example. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's not one that I created. I take a lot of courses online through places like udemy.com, etc. And I took a course there and I really liked what the guy did. This is how he explained media queries. All right. So let me see if I can, I'll bring this up and I'm going to show you the source. Okay. All right. So let's just start. Nothing special here. This is all the kind of stuff that we've been working with, but let's go into the style tags here. So just a simple Arial font, gray background, white text, center aligned, and 100 pixels of top padding. All right. We're going to have on here 4 or 5, I think 5 different H1 tags. And at the beginning, we don't want any of them to show. So we're going to put a display none, which will make sure that none of them show. And this is it. This is the whole body right here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this says my screen is wide, which means it's 1200 pixels or above. This says my screen is normal, and this is up to 1200. I don't remember what the exact number is. Pixels. This is for a tablet, for a smartphone, and for a landscape. All right, so what does this have to do with anything? Well, if you notice, if we look through here, all of these are basically the same except for they're all media queries. They're screen only, because you can also have media queries for print, for example, if you want to. And I think there's even special kinds for like screen readers and the like. So this says if you were at literally 0 pixels to 500 pixels, make the background color red for the screen. And this should display the smartphone H1 tag. And what does the smartphone H1 tag say? It says smartphone. So in other words, if we shrink this down basically as far as it can go, the screen color should turn red and it should say smartphone. If we go between 501 pixels to 768 pixels, and that's pretty much a standard size, then we want the background color to be blue, and we want tablet H1, which is going to say tablet. All right. If we are between 769 and 1200 pixels, we want the background to be green, and we want it to say normal. If it's greater than 1201 pixels and above, we want the background to be black, and we want it to say widescreen. All right. And finally, this will handle landscape. So notice with each one of these, max width, min width, max width, min width, max width, min width. But this one is height, because we're working with landscape. All right. Now I'm going to show you 2 ways that we can quickly test this. Again, this was created by a class I took online with Mr. Brad Traversy. I would strongly suggest, if you have the time, go out to YouTube, put in Traversy Media, and take a look at the stuff that he's got, because the guy is just a phenomenal instructor. Okay, so if we take a look at this, you'll notice I'm going to go back down to 100% here. So we're at 100%. So this says that we're at 1201 pixels right now or above, because when we get down from there, it's going to change color. And it says normal. Now if I get down again to 767 pixels, it goes to tablet. If I go down again to 500 pixels, it says smartphone. So the bottom line is this. This is a really, really simplistic example that is just designed to show you that when you change screen sizes, as an example, we can change what appears on the screen and the color of what appears on the screen. Okay. Now, is that the best program ever written? No, but it's a nice, simplistic little program that starts to go over some of the intricacies of this. So as it says here, the simplest media query syntax looks like this. At media with the type, you notice, remember I had screen only, and then what your media feature rule is. So as mentioned, it consists of a media type, a media expression, and one or more CSS rules. The media type can be all, print, screen, or speech. So here's an example. As it says, the following query will only set the body to 12 points if the page is printed. After specifying the type, you can target a media feature with a rule. Okay? You can have as many of these rules as you want to or need to have. This is very similar to what I just showed you. This is media screen, all right, and the width of 600 pixels. So if it's exactly 600 pixels here, because we're not checking min or max, the color of the body should be red. So this is their example. And you'll notice that if I start shrinking this down, when I get to exactly 600 pixels, well, I thought it was going to turn red. Let's take a quick look. But you're going to notice it is very similar to what I showed you. At media, screen, and width 600 turn red. Close a couple of these up. This is where I got this from. It's a Udemy course. It's modern HTML and CSS from the beginning, from Mr. Brad Traversy. Now it says the width and height can be used as ranges and therefore be prefixed with a min or max. That's what you already saw. So this says, okay, if the screen is a minimum of 600 pixels or 600 pixels or below, the body color should turn blue. Let's see if that works. Oh, I guess it's the color, so I should have checked that. It wasn't the background, it's the color. See that? So right when it hits 600 pixels, this font color will turn blue. And there you go. Now, that's all fine and dandy, but that's not really the way it's used. And what I mean is that's kind of sleight of hand type of stuff. All right. So they talk about orientation as well. Now, let's talk about another way that we could test this stuff. And I should go back to the example that I had up here before, which I foolishly removed, and that's this media queries. All right. Now, you already saw this. I can go and cut this down, start doing this, boom, boom, boom. It all works fine. All right. Is there another way of testing this? Is there a better way of testing this? Well, really there is. And that is I can come in, right mouse click, and choose inspect, and come in here, and if you notice the second way up on top here, right next to the word elements, if I click on this second thing right here, what it does is it's going to allow me to go and test on a bunch of different devices. Now this is a simulator or an emulator. So notice this is a Moto G4, and I can go and see Galaxy, which looks like it's the same size, iPhone, iPhone X, iPad, you see how it's gotten bigger, and an iPad Pro. All right, so you can go and take a look at what's in there. Plus, I can also go in here, where is it, and say, here. And I can change it so it's going back and forth now between portrait and landscape. So notice now if I check these landscapes out, all right, it's not saying anything with landscape. I haven't reached that right threshold yet, but if I do, oops, there we go, normal landscape. All right. And again, what this is you come in, you hit your F12 key, or you right mouse click and choose inspect, and up on the top, right next to the word element, or right before this, which says select an element on the page to inspect it, you choose the second option, which is toggle the device toolbar. Now there are emulators that you can download as well. All right, but this is a quick down and dirty way as you start to test. Of course, you should try to test on actual things themselves, on actual devices. All right. As part of the level 4 specification, it says the hover media feature was introduced. This means you can test if the user has the ability to hover over an element. So if we look at this example, if we know the user cannot hover, we could display some interactive features by default. So that's checking the hover property. And it says they're using some kind of pointing device, touch screen, or keyboard navigation. All right. It says it means if you can test if the user has the ability to hover over an element, which means essentially they're using some kind of pointing device, touch screen, etc. Whereas touchscreen and keyboard navigation does not hover. So this can be important when you're testing things, for example, for someone who has got an impairment, typically, again, a browser for the blind type of thing. If we know the user cannot hover, we could display something by default if we wanted to do so. Also shown in or added in level 4 is the pointer media feature, which takes none, fine, and coarse. A fine pointer is something like a mouse or a trackpad. A coarse pointer is your finger on a touch screen, and none means there is no pointing device. All right. So before we go in and look at some of these more complex media queries, let's stop right here and we'll pick it up in the next lecture.